So here we are on the banks of the Yukon on a hot July day. My buddy St. Stanley just rescued me and helped me get my tub in the water here. Now we got to see if it floats. But we just having a little discussion about the lack of fish over the years. And Stan did a lot of research. And backing up, Stanley, you had the research station upriver. That's what you were doing for years, right?
Yeah, we did. Boy, I think in 2000 we actually started a real project and had sometimes we'd have 3 different boats go out to different fish camps on the river, all the subsistence camps, and collect size, sex, disease information on all the fish that the fishermen would be catching, and the fishermen supported it. They would wait for the kids to show up every day and that kind of thing, and make sure they had all the fish from every day's catch available. And yeah, and so it's just like we did it for, I think the last year we collected data was 2018, and at that point there were so few king salmon in the river and there was so little fishing, we really weren't able to get a good sample size to be able to scientifically say something about the size of the fish, or it wasn't full season data. It was depended on when the openings were happening, because the fish runs were going bad and they were shutting us down, and so there'd be these large gaps in the data and stuff, and so we just decided to kind of end it, and
But over that length of time, what were you finding? What was the?
Well, we knew from, I mean, you go back and I mean, you can go back to like 1986 when the first disease fish was found by Bill Flores, and then of course the next year he found a lot more, and then it became obvious, that this disease was getting ichthyophonus, was becoming pretty rampant in the king salmon, and we just you can go back to then, and at that point we were trying to get the management, trying to get Fish and Game and the federal government involved in trying to say, if we got like 20% or 40% ichthyophonus in these fish, and it looks like it's a severe disease, because the hearts would just swell up. The hearts would get like, we didn't know the amount back then that they were swelling up, but we found out later from scientists and stuff like that came out to the Yukon. We found out from Dr. Kosan, he's the world's renowned ichthyophonus scientist. We found out that those hearts were swelling up to as much as 40% from the infection in the blood organs, the heart, the liver, the spleen, the brain. But anyway, those hearts would swell up so much, and pretty much by the time they get from the mouth to us here in Tanana and up at Rapids, that was kind of like that length of time was pretty much where what happened was, like, the disease was starting to become more pronounced by the time the fish got here. It took them that 15, 17 day period for the disease to get, because the disease was maybe in the fish or they picked it up down at the mouth, but it would progress as they were in fresh water, because they were in a spawning mode. Their ability to fight disease was gone, and so that's why it became so pronounced up here. That's why we saw it and they didn't see it at the mouth. And if you got 30% ichthyophonus, you probably got 30% of those fish not going to be able to make it, from here to the border. They're going to start dying here, and maybe even a few did die before they got here, but this is where they were really going to start dying. And then by the time they get to Canada, there'd be very little of the disease left. And if you got 30% not spawning, 30% of the run not dying from this disease, maybe you should be cutting your commercial catches by 30%. You know, management should do that.
Right.
We tried to. That's why we studied it, because we thought that, you know, they need to look at, you know, taking less king salmon commercially. Right. You know, because you know, subsistence, which is the people's food, has priority legally over commercial. So commercial should be cut before the people's food gets cut. But they wouldn't cut commercial, and it just year after year after year, this disease just kept hammering away, and the fish started getting smaller because the amount of fish that we were taking out of the whole run became more and more and more as the, you know, more fish died. Yeah. And they started getting smaller in size. And
who were you dealing with? Who would you make suggestions to? The feds or the state?
Well, we were trying to convince the state of Alaska, because at the time they were, you know, the main ones dealing with the management, you know. But the federal government was supposed to have been involved too, you know. So